mean, it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today. Welcome back to Fanboy Fridays. Fanboys, I hope your day is going worse than normal. Because I know that on a normal day, your day can't be going well simply because you spend your days defending the indefensible. So today's video comes from Allen Iverson again on the Knuckleheads Podcast, Quinten, Richardson, Darrius, Miles. In this clip, he is talking about the reaction that the GOAT, Michael Jordan, got at the 75th Top 75 ceremony. And yeah, to me, this is just something else that shows the impact of Michael Jordan. We all have seen it. We all saw the applause he got when he showed up. Again, people didn't think he was going to show up. And when he did, the crowd just went crazy. But let's hear it from one of the players' perspective. Let's check out this clip.
Was y'all at the All-Star game where they honored us with the top 75?
No.
Okay. Just me being.
This is great.
Just me being there. Like, this the greatest feeling that I had when I was there in the room. When you got the older legendary guys, they want to meet you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they want to meet you. And then, you talking about, it's an honor and this, that, and the third to meet you. And they saying the same thing to you, man. I always wanted to meet you. And, and that it was flattering. Yes, it was. To be in a room where you with the best, the cream of the crop. And they giving you your props.
So, in the first part of this clip, I'm just going to stop it right there for a second, just for the simple fact that we cannot say enough about Allen Iverson. So he talks about, one of the flattering things is being amongst the top 75 greatest players and having the older generation give you your props. Because to me, that's an important thing if you are actually, number one, if you actually respect the game. If you actually respect the game of basketball, then what the older generation thinks does matter, especially when you're talking about the older greats. And so like we've said before on this channel, I think there is nobody who can doubt the heart that Allen Iverson played with on the court. Like I said, I don't agree with everything that Allen Iverson brought to the game. And matter of fact, in this same episode, they were talking about the whole dress thing and the whole, not wearing suits and, he just felt like he needed to be himself. Like, I disagree with that. And don't get me wrong, because back then, I 100% agreed with that. Back then when I was young and a teenager, late teens, early 20s, whatever, I agreed wholeheartedly with that. Like, man, yeah, you should be able to wear what you want. But now I see it differently. I see it like if you have to wear a suit to make millions of dollars, I don't think there should be any complaint. Because the only way you get to dictate what should be acceptable in the business is if you own the business. If you own the business, then you dictate how people should dress to make the money that you're going to be paying them and whatnot. So I totally disagree with that. And I have to say, I think that something that small things like that kind of is a slippery slope. It's the slippery slope to where we've gotten to now. This whole entitlement to where all these players feel like anything they feel they should be able to do, they think they should be able to do it. And unfortunately, we got Commissioner Voldemort in charge who basically feels the same way, who feels like he needs to cater to these players in every way, despite it despite the product not being as good, you know. But anyway, let's continue.
But I remember, man, and I'll never forget it. He showed up to the joint. And I just remember the reaction from everybody else. All the other, 74. You know what I mean? All the other 74. And I remember the reaction from them. You know what I mean? Like, I was looking at it like, yo, this man is the man for real. I mean, I hear all the comparisons and all that. You know what I mean? And I have to be biased. I have to be because he made me want to be me.
Yeah.
But then I get a chance to, when you want to debate about it, I get to talk about his accolades. I get to talk about what he's done, like and be confident in my feelings. You know what I mean? And
all right, so he goes on to talk about. Well, first of all, those of us who've seen the whole top 75 ceremony, we all know the reaction that Michael Jordan got when he entered the building. In Cleveland, we all know the reaction that he got. It was clear. Fanboys, if you didn't know before then, it should have been very clear at that moment that your king has failed miserably at trying to control the narrative to be the GOAT. But we all saw the fan reaction. But Allen Iverson is talking about the players' reaction. He said the other 74 players, how they reacted when Michael Jordan entered the building. He knew, like, that's the man right there. That is the man when your peers don't see you as peers. This is the thing about Michael Jordan, is even his own peers, you know, most of them. You know, you got Isaiah Thomas, you got Scottie Pippen, you got some people who obviously don't believe Michael Jordan is the GOAT for various reasons. There may be some people who actually don't believe it. There may be some people who value different things other than what Michael Jordan brings. And there are some people who simply don't like Michael Jordan because everybody else sees him as the GOAT. But to have the respect of your peers to that degree. Again, we've heard the stories of Michael Jordan. We've heard the stories of the fear that Michael Jordan represents when he plays. We've heard the stories of coaches and other players saying, hey, do not make this guy mad. Again, fanboys, I know we got to describe it for you because you're slow. We're not talking about fear like he's the biggest, strongest person on the court. It might F you up. We're talking about fear in the sense that, hey, we're trying to win this game. So the last thing that you want to do is get this guy mad. The last thing you want to do is get Michael Jordan mad so he can take over the game. And, you know, we've seen countless examples of a team winning and someone mouthed off to Michael Jordan. One of my favorite ones is the Kevin Garnett story, the Kevin Garnett and Isaiah Ryder story. You know, but we've seen countless examples of that. Another one is, I think they were, was it in New Jersey or was it Cleveland? But it was the fan heckling him about his shoes. And for most of it, you didn't even know that Michael Jordan even knew that the guy was heckling him until Michael Jordan started cooking at the end. And then he looks over at the guy and tells him he needs to shut up. And then you see Michael Jordan sitting on the bench, hushing him, you know, from the bench. But, and you know, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in there. This is how you should handle a heckler. You handle them by winning the game, not by getting them thrown out. But again, that's LeBron James. That's your king, fanboys. Your king is Mr. Sensitive, Mr. Excuses, Mr. Flop, Mr. No Bag, Mr. Try to control the narrative, Mr. Lie in front of the camera. You know, we could go on and on with this. Your king represents everything of low integrity about the game of basketball. But anyway, you know, we've seen countless stories of this. So, you know, Michael Jordan had that respect because people knew that trash talking him could cost you the game, could cost you the W. This is what we're talking about. So for Michael Jordan to have that kind of respect amongst his peers, and we know, you know, people want to believe that LeBron James has that kind of respect, but there's too many instances of not only players just trash talking him, but players trash talking him in the worst way, just in the most disrespectful way, because they have no fear of what LeBron could do. LeBron James can't turn it on like that. You know, if you talk trash to LeBron, you can feel pretty safe. I'm not saying he's not capable of having a good game, but he's not capable of doing it at will. He's not capable of just turning on that switch the moment you tick him off, you know. But anyway, and then so he goes on to talk about him being biased. You know, he said, you know, I have to be biased. And I think we are all biased to some degree. For those of us who grew up in the 90s, for those of us who grew up in the greatest era of the NBA and basketball in general, there has to be some kind of bias from growing up in that environment. There has to be, because again, you know, I've done videos about growing up in the 90s and what that was like. And again, for you younger kids who watch my channel, you know, it's no way to explain to you what the 90s was like in terms of basketball. Again, you have to imagine, like, again, it's when I walk outside of my house, I don't notice any basketball jerseys. Occasionally, maybe. But just in general, I'm talking about amongst the younger kids, I don't notice any basketball jerseys. When we were coming up in the 90s, like wearing basketball jerseys was part of the culture. Like they were common dress. Like I cannot even explain how many jerseys, like you just had to be there to understand what it was like. So, you know, imagine seeing basketball jerseys among your peers. You know, you growing up as a teenager, and most of you guys, I would say everyone I know owned some kind of basketball jersey. Everyone I knew who I hung out with owned some kind of basketball jersey. Not only that, but you have to imagine playing basketball 4 or 5 times a week, and it's not just it's not an isolated thing, or it's not confined to a small group of people. Imagine being in your city and driving to any court in the city, and there's 4 court games going on with waiting. Like you're not just gonna show up and hop in the game. Like you're gonna have to call next, and you're probably not next up. You probably got, you know, 2 or 3 game wait before. But imagine that. Like you guys cannot imagine what that was like. I mean, literally driving to any court in your city or going to any gym in your city, and there's always somebody playing basketball. You know, imagine all of the basketball movies that we had. Above the Rim, White Man Can't Jump, He Got Game, Love and Basketball, The Sixth Man. I mean, it just Sunset Park. It's just countless basketball movies. And then imagine that the TV shows that you watch, a lot of them, some kind of basketball scene was a regular part of the show. You know, it probably didn't happen in every single episode, but that was, like I said, first thing I think of is Martin, where Tommy, Cole, and Martin, you know, they regularly went and played basketball. But you guys can't imagine what this culture is like. So yes, there is absolutely some kind of bias that happens because of that. But what did Allen Iverson say after that? He said, I have to be biased, but he said, but then when I get into the argument with somebody, when I'm talking about somebody about who's the GOAT, I get to talk about all of the things that Michael Jordan accomplished, all of the accolades. And he basically said, and once I do that, I know I'm justified in my feelings. And this is the thing that you LeBron James fans do not have. And let me give you guys a clue. When when you have to talk about non-basketball related stuff to try to justify your point, just know that you've already lost. And let me give you an example. Let's say you're an artist, right? Let's say you're an artist and you do a new painting that you're proud of, and you go ask one of your friends, hey, what do you think of this painting? And he says, man, well, I really like the way you dress. He doesn't tell you anything about the painting. He deflects it to something else because he doesn't want to tell you your painting sucks. When you have to talk about something that is not the subject at hand, we are talking about Michael Jordan is the GOAT of basketball, people. The GOAT of basketball. We didn't say he's the best father. We didn't say he's the best friend. We didn't say he's deserves a humanitarian award. None of that. We're saying on the court, he is the guy. He is the guy you want taking the last shot. He is the guy that you would trust to be a lockdown defender. He is the guy that you would trust to hold everybody accountable and not settle for anything less than 100%. He's that guy. He's the guy who you know is going to listen to the coach and get everybody else in line. Not get the coach fired. He's the guy who you know that's going to stay on his teammates until they are doing their road to perfection. Not go behind their back to get them traded. He's the guy who's winning scoring titles and all defensive teams every year. He's that guy. LeBron James is not. So yeah, there is always, or most of the time, some kind of bias that basketball fans have towards a player. But the thing is once you get to talking about why Michael Jordan is the GOAT, you are completely justified. And Michael Jordan is the GOAT because he checks all of the boxes more than any other player. So you would literally have to value something else, something more heavily. Like, for instance, you could say, oh, well, Kyrie has great handles. And if the only thing you care about is handles, then maybe Kyrie is your GOAT. But if you're talking about the greatest actual all-around player, because that's not LeBron James. That is a false narrative, greatest all-around player. If you're talking about the greatest all-around player who checks all-around boxes more than any other player, that is Michael Jordan. Anyway, let's continue.
Not to get into it, but I love LeBron as a basketball player, as everything that he did for basketball. I mean, the man he is off the basketball court, all the things that he accomplished.
We all do. If you don't, you a hater.
You know what I mean? He's it. You know what I mean? And they always putting them together. Like, why it can't be like LeBron is on Mount Rushmore.
Facts.
That's enough.
That's
you know what I mean?
Like by saying that Mike is better than him.
Yeah, it's not no disrespect because you.
All right. So this is the last part I want to discuss. This is where we diverge away from agreeing with Allen Iverson. He says LeBron James is on the route Mount Rushmore. I totally disagree. And then, you hear Quinten Richardson in the back basically saying if you don't rock with all the things LeBron James has done off court and for the game, you're a hater. Of course, typical speech that you have to use when you are talking about LeBron. If you are dealing with a LeBron fan and you do not agree with how LeBron has done it, then you get labeled a hater. But what I want to talk about is this. They did say, hey, it should not be disrespectful to say LeBron James is not better than Mike. And those are facts. And this is where I think LeBron James and the whole Clutch Sports have really shot themselves in the foot. I think this is one of the biggest things that they really shot themselves in the foot with this one. And what do I mean? I mean this. We all know that Clutch Sports, has a stronghold in the NBA, pressuring people to push narratives about LeBron James. And again, they've done a pretty good job turning someone who shouldn't be in the top 10 to getting a lot of people convinced that he should be top 2 or top 3. They've done a good job with that. But again, I think the past couple of weeks we've started witnessing more and more people speaking out against LeBron James. And I think one of the biggest reasons for this is because they act like it's disrespectful to say LeBron James is not number 1. And so I think that is really rubbing people the wrong way. It's like you can't even be, like, you shouldn't even be in the top 10. But yet you think it's disrespectful for people to not say you're number 1? You think your longevity argument is actually a valid case to say you're number 1 when the bottom line is, when it comes down to winning a game, who do you want? And people have tried to justify this in many different ways. Again, going back to Gil's Arena when they had Spencer Dinwiddie on there talking about he would choose LeBron James to start his franchise with because you get 20 years. Again, what team has LeBron James spent 20 years on, fanboys? What team? What player has LeBron James spent 20 years with, fanboys? LeBron James is not a builder of things. Let's just go ahead and call it like it is. LeBron James is not a builder of things. This is LeBron James' biggest problem. LeBron James has had dynasties during his supposed era of domination, and he has never created a dynasty because LeBron James is not a builder of things. People who build things have to have patience, persistence. They have to be in it for the long haul. They have to be willing to start with nothing, to build a foundation, and to keep adding on until they have built something grand. And this is the biggest difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. It's the thing we always talk about. LeBron James is a shortcut taker. And let me go ahead and tell you, fanboys, once you start your career off with shortcuts, the rest of your career is tainted. They talk about LeBron James not having coaches, and they skew everything because they're not seeing this through the correct lens. They talk about Michael Jordan retiring in '98 because he said, look, I'm not willing to play with anybody else but Phil Jackson. But again, they try to use it to say, hey, because Phil was this great coach. No, because Michael Jordan saw it as, we built this thing together. Phil Jackson hadn't won any championships before coming to the Bulls. We built this together. Michael Jordan understood building things as a team. The same reason that in The Last Dance, he said that's why he was so hard on his teammates on the second three-peat, the new guys that came in, the Tony Kukoc, the Luke Longley, the Steve Kerr. He said, I was so hard on these guys because I had already spent all this time building this into a respectable organization, and I was not going to let anybody come in here and not take it serious and knock down what I've spent years of blood, sweat, and tears building. I wasn't going to do that. So Michael Jordan understood building something. LeBron James did not. He has not. And that's why his whole legacy is basically built out of popsicle sticks. His whole legacy is built out of popsicle sticks, and the whole longevity thing is a desperate attempt to, again, switch the narrative to something that we have never judged superstars on before. I'm not saying longevity isn't a part of it, but longevity in itself has never been a case to make someone the GOAT. Not in any sport. Not in anything in life. You could be a chef. It's like, what chef do you want? The chef that has attracted everybody to the restaurant and made it a 5-star restaurant because people come all over because they have heard about how great the food tastes? Or you want to walk in and say, give me the chef that's been cooking the longest. Give me the chef that's been cooking the longest time. I know the food isn't as good, but he's been doing it a long time. So, fanboys, you guys are ridiculous. But anyway, we are going to hold up here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think about what Allen Iverson had to say about the reaction of the other 74 players to Michael Jordan at the top 75 ceremony? Fanboys, I guess it's probably time to bring back some fanboy files. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly, truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.